As much as I hate to make it seem like I've been pining away for Jon Jones, because God knows that I haven't been, there has actually been a pretty interesting little story that arrived on the Jon Jones watch this last week. And that is that Jon Jones has apparently taken a fight of sorts at heavyweight. No, I mean, he's not fighting Cyril Gane. You know, he's not fighting Derek Lewis. He's not even fighting Stipe Miocic in the UFC. Instead, he's going to a little promotion called the Fury Grappling Championship. And reportedly, he's taken a match with Bellator heavyweight Jake Hager. Now, if that name seems a little bit familiar to you, you know, if you're not an MMA fan and this name sounds familiar to you, well, then you might actually be, you know, an all-elite wrestling fan, because aside from being a Bellator heavyweight, Jake Hager spends the rest of his time as a professional wrestler on the AEW brand. And if you're not familiar with Jake Hager from the AEW brand, well, then you might remember him as former WWE star Jack Swagger. So he's been around, and he's been there, he's done that. And before he got into professional wrestling, he was an NCAA wrestler. So he's not just some fake wrestler on TV who's never done it, who has no real grappling experience. You know, this is a guy with real, you know, bona fides. Now, the really interesting thing, there's so many interesting angles with this potential matchup, which I believe is actually, you know, as yet currently unconfirmed. It sounds like they don't really have, you know, they don't have names on paper just yet. They don't have signatures on a contract. But both parties have said that they're interested in it and working towards it. And there's so many different angles in it that are really interesting. I mean, for those who never followed Jake Hager's pro wrestling career, he has had a tendency to do his best work as a heel, you know, as basically like a wrestling villain. Now, as a babyface, you know, as a wrestling good guy, so to speak, you know, not really especially interesting, you know, kind of a vanilla sort of character in that regard. Jake Hager always did his best work as a heel. Now, on the other side of it, I think that if you could look anywhere in the world of MMA right now and find somebody who should almost indisputably, you know, be accepted as a heel of sorts within the MMA community, I think that Jon Jones would have to be the guy. So I think this grappling match is really interesting in the sense that you have this heel versus heel aspect to it. But then even beyond that, once you get into it, there are a lot of people who seem to think that a match like this should basically be easy money for Jon Jones. He should be able to steamroll Jake Hager. Personally, I'm not too sure about that. I mean, Jon Jones, he does have a lot of, you know, he is well known for his skills as a grappler. Make no mistake about that. But his greatest strength as an MMA grappler has always been his ground and pound. In these grappling matches, ground and pound, it's not really an option that's available to them. It's not within the rule set. And so once you take the ground and pound out of it, you're kind of left with two guys who are basically having to go in there and actually wrestle, actually grapple. You know, they have to use their jiu-jitsu skills. You have to use their wrestling skills. And so I think that this is a litmus test for both of these fighters. On the one hand, you have Jon Jones, who, if this contest goes forward, is going to be just finally beginning to dip his toes in the water as a heavyweight. And on the other hand, you have Jake Hager, who is undefeated in the heavyweight division of Bellator, but he hasn't faced any top-ranked opponents yet. As a matter of fact, I'd have to double-check this, but I'm not sure that Jake Hager has fought any ranked opponents at all in Bellator. And so it's definitely a litmus test for him as well. So on the one hand, we're going to see, you know, if Jon Jones has the ability to thrive in MMA in the grappling area as a heavyweight. But in Jake Hager's case, we're finally going to see how well he's going to fare against top talent. I do think that we are all going to have to agree that this is likely to be an uphill battle for Jake Hager. The difference in the resume of the two different competitors just, you know, It's too strongly speaks in that direction for us to look at any other conclusion. But anybody who thinks that this is going to be a win in the bag for Jon Jones, I don't think they're giving Jake Hager enough credit.